Hi everyone, it's Pastor Justin here, just checking in to give you guys a little bit of a heads up as to how things are going to operate when we arrive back here at the church building on Sunday, June 13th. We're going to give you some quick instructions here in this video so that we can be set up and make things as fluid as possible for that first Sunday back. And then we all could come in with the same good expectations and guidelines so that we can look forward to worship as joyfully as possible. So why don't we go ahead and get it started here, shall we? So first things first, when we arrive, we are asking that when we go into the building, we're asking everyone who enters to please put on their masks. We recognize that a large part of our community has already received their vaccines, and for that we give thanks to God for their availability and for the expediency with which our folks have gotten vaccinated. But we also recognize that when it comes to worship, we will still have a large number of folks who are not yet vaccinated. In particular, we'll still have a large number of our students, of our youngest ones in our midst, who we want to incorporate and know that they are welcomed here in worship, but are ineligible to receive the vaccines yet. So for the time being, at the very least, we are asking that folks do continue to put their masks on. Even if you know you are vaccinated and don't necessarily need it, we're at least going to model it well for our students so that they can see that it's really not a big deal, and that when they're wearing their masks, we can too, and we can welcome each other in that way. So when we head on into the building, we're going to go ahead and put these masks on and then head right on in. And when we arrive, you'll of course do the normal Sunday morning thing. You can stop by the welcome space here in the narthex, and you'll get a bulletin that you'll use throughout worship. And the bulletin will have everything you need in it from the start to the end of the service, including the hymns for worship, which will be found at the end of the bulletin. This will reduce our need to be all touching the same hymnals each and every week. So you'll be able to find the hymns that we'll sing at the end of the worship service at the back of the bulletin. But once you've come by and said hi to the greeters and received your bulletin, then we'll go ahead and we're going to go and head on upstairs. And when you arrive upstairs here, we're going to have some additional volunteers helping us out for at least the next couple of weeks, maybe the next couple of months. We are not going to be doing any sort of physical blocking of pews, but we are going to mark pews that are socially distanced from one another to create as much space as possible between family units. And so we'll have a few volunteers up here who will help guide you to pews that are best equipped to maintain that distance. So please touch base with those volunteers when you arrive at the top of the stairs. For now, it will be some of our church council members. So look to them and they will help point you to a socially distanced pew and a good spot for Sunday morning worship. And who knows, you might just find your new favorite worship spot in the midst of all of this. And then once you find yourself in your nice new pew spot, or maybe an old one that you've been able to find your way into, we're going to ask everyone to fill out what we will have here in the center of the pews, new contact cards for everyone. Rather than fill out the fellowship pads like we have in the past, we'll have contact cards here placed in the center of the pews for everyone to fill out their name and pertinent information. This is a way of us just keeping our checks and balances in place, of making sure that we are aware of who's been through our space. That way, in the event that somebody should have test positive later in the week, we'll have an idea of who was around that we will need to notify. After you filled out that card, though, we'll ask you to go ahead and hold on to it to the end of service, because at the end of service, you'll be able to place them in offering plates stationed at the top of the stairs and at the front entrance to the sanctuary. That's also where you can place your offering during worship. We will not be passing the plates around like we are accustomed to doing, for the time being at least. But instead, we invite everyone who would like to place their offering envelopes or their offering for the day in any of the plates as they'll be set up around the sanctuary on your way out from worship in the morning. And then last but certainly not least, we're just going to give some brief instructions for communion on Sunday morning. We will be resuming our weekly practice of communion during our worship services. And the way it'll work will be similar to the way we've done it in the past, but a little bit different with the new tools at our disposal. Rather than have both sides of the sanctuary coming up the aisle at the same time, we're going to have one side come forward at a time. That way we're not cramming up this middle aisle with a lot of folks all at once. And when you arrive here at the front of the sanctuary, you'll find me stationed here with the bread, and I will give you the bread, and you'll move to your respective side where somebody will pour the wine into a plastic cup for your use. And then you can dispose of your plastic cup at the end of the line, where they will then be recycled at the end of the service. So we'll be doing one station for communion at a time, with one line and one side coming up at a time. But for those who would prefer a little extra distance between me handing them the bread and the communion itself, we'll have a table set up here at the front of the sanctuary where there will be pre-packaged bread and wine and grape juice and gluten-free wafers available. That way, if you would prefer to remain as contactless as possible, you can simply take those communion elements when you arrive at the front of the line here, and we will go through the communion together in that way, using the elements that you bring forward with you.